Hello everyone, I hope you're doing great. In this tutorial video, I want to show you how I deal with making really nice forests for my assets in an efficient and quick way. My latest creation features quite a lot of forests, and it can be quite a pain to place each tree by itself. So I'll first show you a very interesting tool to create forests, and then how I do it by hand for finer control over the results while still being really quick about it. The first solution would be to use the TaleSpire forest generator you can find online. It is a very nice tool to generate terrain slabs quickly. As you can see, multiple presets are available for different types of terrains and forest, and you can easily change the size of the created slab, or you can even tweak how the procedural generation of the slab will work by changing the values to your liking. I will not delve into details on how it works, but you can almost in an instant create many different forests and still have some control over it. I'm sure if you look the forest generator into more details, you'll have great fun with it. Here you can see a generated slab at the bottom, and at the top the forest from the asset I've made myself. The results are very good and pretty similar on both slabs. The trees of the generator might be a bit smaller or more simple than the one I've made, but the difference is minimal. If we then compare two larger slabs, one I've generated and one I've created by hand, you can see one issue rising is that when generating a big forest with the generator, you can see that the assets looks very flat and somewhat random. Not very nice compared to the hand-placed ones, and they lack a feeling of natural growth. They're placed randomly, and you can see by the eye that does not look really appealing, or at least to me. The forest generator is indeed a really powerful tool, but there are two limitations that we can see right now. The minor one is that the slabs produced do look quite procedural, and the other one, which is a bigger issue, is that it only works with flat terrain. Knowing those limitations, the way I use myself the generator is that I create an asset by hand with a lot of details and time, and then I use the generator to expand what I've already created for really good effect and a minimal amount of time. The seams are almost not visible between the handmade assets and the generated one, and the less detailed terrain is not an issue as it is farther away from the point of interest of the map. Even with one generated slab, by rotating it around and copy-pasting it, it is almost impossible to see the repetition in patterns and makes for a very convincing result. In the case of our assets, I've already done my terrain with a lot of different levels, meaning that it will not be possible to use the forest generator to create my forest, as it works only on flat grounds. Here is what the assets look like before I added all the trees. The issue then is how can we create quickly forest on uneven terrain by creating it by hand. My solution, to be quick about it and try to approach it as a modular way, is to prepare myself some assets that I will be able to reuse multiple times in a way that does not appear hand-placed or with a visible pattern. I first start by creating 5 to 6 different trees, different heights, and mostly some detail in variations, changing the trunks, changing the tops, adding some other details, and etc. The goal is to have a panel of different trees you're going to be able to use. You can obviously change the type of tree or the way you create them depending on your needs. The idea is really to create the biome of your liking. Once I'm finished with the trees, I even create some tiny ferns ensembles, or with pebbles or rocks. You could use very different type of assets. The goal is that this will constitute the base component of my biome. The next step is to take the trees I've created and clump them together to create interesting ensembles with different sizes and shapes. You need to remember that trees tend to clump a bit with the tallest one, leaving rooms underneath for the smaller trees or even some empty space. With some practice, you will have the hang of it and make some really nice ensembles or clumps of trees. I try to create clumps that are big, some smaller, or varying size and shapes, as they will have to fit in the spaces available on my map. The idea is to fill a square of 2x2, 4x4, 1x1, 6x6, and with those variations you'll be able to fill almost everything that you need on your map. Once those two steps are finished, you can finally start to paste the clumps on your map. Each clump is working with different spaces, and I would recommend to start from big places and big clumps to more narrow spaces, and as well start from top to down. This will greatly help your process. Do not hesitate to change regularly the clump you are pasting, and think of it as a brush you can select to paint your forest. Now that you're painting with a brush and applying clumps, you can easily swap them out and paste them at the right places. Do not hesitate to rotate a lot, and everything will blend together nicely as things progresses. Do not try to fill every gap either. Leave room for some empty spaces or natural formations to appear. It will create more interesting places, and we can always come back to those empty spots later to add some detail. Do not hesitate to delete or even add by hand some trees to your liking to change the detail, or if you feel that some areas need a bit of a touch-up. With this method, you're quickly able to fill large spaces of terrain with trees or any biome you've created. This could work with rocks, different types of trees, or even assets and props. After a moment, you'll feel that your map is starting to get pretty much complete or pretty much filled with trees, but you'll often notice that the borders of the map are lacking trees and are showing empty spaces, with empty strips of various lengths. In this case, I create a bigger clump of trees with a large border. I then just paste it, letting it over the edge of the map and cutting the part not needed. By rotating, pasting, and cutting, I'm able to quickly fill the borders of my assets. Then I would recommend to go by the eye and either delete some trees or add some to have a more aesthetically pleasing forest. You can always spend way more time in this process, but oftentimes, good is better and better is often worse. By touching up too much your forest for minute details, you may spend a lot of time and even destroy a bit the organic and random feeling you have created. Once all of my trees have been placed, I can start to add different types of details, as the fern clumps I had previously created, and also by hand I can clip some trees and rocks to create bushes and rock formation quickly. Remember, it always looks better if you clump assets together, leaving spaces between the clumps, as often in nature, nothing is spread evenly across a space. This is now the end of this tutorial on how to make better forests in TaleSpire. We looked at the forest generator and knowing its limitation, how we can use it in our builds. Then we learned how to efficiently create an iced forest by hand on uneven terrain. As you can see, the result is very striking, and to me at least is very pleasing. The links for the tutorial assets and the forest generator are available in the description. I hope you had a good time and learned something in this tutorial, and above all, have a good day.